if you get shot in the land of make-believe...
Do you die in real life?
I imagine you are dying until you are taken out of the land of make-believe, and if they get you out in time before your gunshot wound kills you, then it's just like red handkerchief in your shirt.
That makes
so
sense.
as long as you get out in time, you're safe.
I feel like I saw a show. The Last Action Hero has that premise.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I've always wanted to have a neighbor just like you. I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you.
Hello again, it's another beautiful day in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
And we're back with another episode of Please Won't You Be My Podcast.
The second ever episode of Please Won't You Be My Podcast, or the second ever episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Indeed, so you can find that online on iTunes, Amazon, or mischievous places.
Or DVD.
Maybe, probably.
Before we get too far, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Steven.
And we're brothers. Let's talk about episode 2 of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
So, in this episode, we start off with Mr. Rogers receiving a package.
A mysterious package.
Or a sack.
It's not that mysterious. My first note is it's a picture, so it's not that mysterious of a package.
You knew that before he got it out of the bag? Or after he pulled it out?
I think I knew it after he got it out of the burlap bag, but before he got it out of the plastic bag.
Yeah, so Mr. Rogers received from one of his friends, I don't know if he commissioned this, but it's a painting.
He doesn't specify who the friend is.
It's a painting of the neighborhood of make-believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our last podcast episode, we were sort of speculating how much of this was like real and how much of this is make-believe an actual physical location.
This episode, I think, blew that wide open.
Yeah, no, this is...
on a number of levels.
So make-believe is not in any way make-believe except to the viewers watching.
I mean, I think it's and in the sense, because Mr. Rogers is aware of what happens. Not always. He's not always aware of what happened. He's got a telescope that he can use to see it from inside of his house.
Yeah, he's got a phone.
He's got a tin can phone that can hear it, and the traffic light lights up yellow.
Oh, if there's
when there's a phone call coming.
Oh, I thought it was if the train was coming.
No, I think that's like the ringer on his phone, because it lights up yellow, and he says, "Oh, there's a phone call." And when he pulls out his hideaway bed and sits on it, then he can, I guess, he becomes privy to everything that happens there.
Right, so he does have a telepathic connection when he's on his hideaway.
He's clearly some sort of lodestone, some sort of psychic lodestone to the land of make-believe.
Like, in this episode, Betty Aberlin, known in make-believe as Lady Aberlin. Yeah.
Well, and known kind of everywhere as Lady Aberlin.
She goes there physically, and she stops by Mr. Rogers' house.
And also, she's King Friday's niece.
Yes, his niece.
Grandniece, yeah.
Yes.
He is her great uncle.
Great uncle, yes.
So, but she doesn't seem to live in the land of make-believe.
No, she lives in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Yeah. And just visits her puppet granduncle.
Mm-hmm.
And later, Mr. McFeely, who has no connection to the land of make-believe,
as far as we know,
just swings over and comes back. It's like a 5-minute walk.
Well, I mean, the trolley can go, like, as soon as Mr. Rogers telepathically sees the trolley, or I guess using his...
He sees it using his telescope, yeah.
As soon as he sees the trolley going into the tunnel, he knows that it's about to come out on his end.
Right.
So either the land of make-believe is a couple feet away from the back of his house, or it's a parallel dimension.
I mean, I think we have to assume it's a parallel or non-Euclidean, because we see the outside of his house in diorama form.
Right.
Which I have no reason to believe is inaccurate.
Right. And we saw a map of his house in the last episode, I believe.
Did we see a map of his house?
I believe his neighborhood, there's a map, but maybe I'm thinking of another.
That might be something else. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So where are we in there? We're sort of going all over the place.
Yeah. So Mr. Rogers gets a call from Edgar again, who we
meet Edgar in this episode, which is exciting.
Yeah, we meet him later on. But Edgar tells him that King
Friday has gone all out.
Yeah, you mentioned in the last episode that because this show features a king, that our podcast would be inherently political.
Yeah.
And it was really
is it
a prophecy of things
King Friday is building a wall, and he's going to make Lady Elaine Fairchild pay for it.
That's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
And so Edgar tells Mr. Rogers that King Friday has established border guards around the perimeter of the land of make-believe, specifically his castle.
Mostly just the castle, though, I mean, that's where the trolley goes by, which seems to be the only obvious point of egress or the opposite of egress.
Well, I mean, I'm not exactly sure.
People get in somehow.
So we still don't know how people get from the Mr. Rogers dimension to the land of make-believe.
I think they just sort of like come around the side of the castle.
Maybe
so. Maybe the castle is built on sort of the border, or they just come in from, camera left or camera right.
After this phone call exchange, he gets a knock on the door.
Yeah,
which he responds by knocking back, which I thought was, I'm going to incorporate that into my life, I feel.
Yeah, you're going to start knocking back?
Knocking on the door. If I don't want to answer it, I'll just knock back.
That's an idea, but I don't think he didn't want to answer. He was very whimsical this day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was
very whimsical this day in his neighborhood.
Yeah, no, when he was hanging up the picture, it was crooked, and then he's like, is it crooked? And he fixes it, but he goes to fix it, but he just flings it completely crooked the other way. And he grins at you like an impudent youth.
I was like, stop being difficult, Mr. Rogers.
You know exactly what you're doing, Mr. Rogers. You know that picture's crooked. He found that stud so fast, though, when he was hanging that picture.
That's true, I didn't think
he just walks over the wall, boom, right in.
That probably has to do with the telepathic abilities that he has.
Or the fact that his house is a set.
I guess would it be telepathic or clairvoyant? Might be I think
clairvoyant,
Yeah, general probably.
General psychicness. So, he talks to I'm going to get the ladies mixed up. 100%.
Lady Aberlin. So do you remember why she came to Mr. Rogers' house, or was she just stopping by to say that
she was just stopping by, I think, to say hi on her way to the land of make-believe to visit her great uncle.
Right, and then Mr. Rogers warns her that things are getting hot in the land of make-believe.
That King Friday is literally on the warpath.
Yeah, and he clarifies. He says, Mr. Rogers says, there's no shooting yet.
Yeah. Things have not.
But he's just warning Betty Aberlin that it is
tensions are on the rise.
It is a tense political scene going on there, and she needs to be careful when
she asks,
traveling abroad.
To what is her
plane? I don't know.
Home country? I guess. I mean, she's a descendant of the royal family.
Yes.
So, but she asks. When she hears that things are getting tense in the land of make-believe, she asks what I think is a very telling question. She asks if she should bring an imaginary gun.
Oh, yeah.
So in the land of make-believe, I think she might even say a make-believe gun.
Yeah, she says, should I bring a make-believe gun with me? And Mr. Rogers says, no, I don't think it's gotten that bad yet.
Yeah. So if you... And he also says if you needed one, you could just, make a gun with your finger.
So obviously this world of make-believe is kind of powered by imagination.
Yeah, it seems
Which I assume that must be how Mr. Rogers is able to... clairvoyance, the power of imagination is all he needs.
He's tapped into the land of make-believe through his imagination.
He's a very vivid imagination.
I mean, it's possible he's formed it through his imagination.
Maybe.
And we'll see if this bears out. I think he might be the only person who doesn't travel to the land of make-believe himself.
Yeah, is he their god?
I think he might be the originator of the land of make-believe or something like that.
Uh-huh.
There should be a movie, really.
So,
I'm ready for the gritty Mr. Rogers remake.
But
yeah, so can you imagine a gun up in the land of
I guess so.
Make-believe and...
Maybe that's why, that's how Lady Elaine Fairchild has achieved her magical abilities. She just has a vivid imagination.
She just has a very vivid imagination.
And so she can control the
she's imagined herself up full match. She's tapped into it.
Yeah.
So Mr. Rogers gives Lady Aberlin his burlap sack cape,
right,
she was
which
playing
he made
with earlier.
Yeah, he made a few things out of burlap
to take into the war-torn land of make-believe.
Yeah, it's not really a beautiful.
It's
day.
not a great day.
It's an all right day in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Yes, but things abroad are heating up.
Yeah, it's. Do you know how that feels?
No, I don't know what that's.
Do you know how it feels to be in a reasonably beautiful country and have things go a little shifty in a neighboring
in your neighboring allies' country? Yeah, no, I don't know what that's like.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's get ready to move on to the land of make-believe.
Head on over to the land of make-believe. Get your papers ready. Have your papers ready. Have your ID present. Your name, rank, and serial number. I mean, hang on to your passport. Don't let anybody take your passport.
Yeah,
And don't raise a fuss as we board the trolley to the land of make-believe.
Yep, here we go.
Here we go. And here we are, because as we've established, it's like a 2-minute round trip.
It's like a 2-second round trip.
It's a very quick...
The longest part of the procedure
jaunt.
is just the...
I mean, I think the trolley is the fastest way. It's a bit further if you're walking, but not much.
So things are every bit as frightening as Mr. Rogers played them up to be.
Yeah. The king is wearing a helmet.
King Friday the 13th.
Over his crown, which is never a good sign.
So the first thing that we see is the trolley arrives at the land of make-believe, and the king personally stops the trolley and asks the trolley for his name, rank, and serial number.
Which, in the land of for real, is not what you would ask somebody at a border.
No, that's true.
That is what you train soldiers to only give out if they're interrogated, so that valuable information does not fall into the enemy hands.
But I think that King Friday the 13th has a pretty vague understanding of how politics.
He has a very vague understanding of politics and military, though he's very hands-on.
Yes,
most rulers are the official head of the military, but he's very, very hands-on about it. He's personally commanding his only soldier, Edgar,
who we meet in this episode
for the first time.
He's like kind of a nervous man who sings every word that he says.
Everything he says, which is very... I imagine it makes him annoying to talk to.
I'd like to emphasize that he doesn't really sing a song. He just sort of adds a melodious tone to everything that he says, which is really annoying to listen to.
And sort of repeats some things. He sounds like a child who is, how children talk faster than they're thinking.
Right.
And so they'll just sort of go on and on in a sing-songy way. A sing-songy way. That's Edgar right there.
Yeah. Anyways, we do get into kind of the motivating ideas of
yeah. So I mean, King Friday, I think in his mind is just retaliating.
Well, he says it's a war against the Changers.
Yes,
because everything in the land of make-believe has been rearranged. All of the landmarks.
Lady Elaine Fairchild has changed everything, and he does not like change.
Well, and he says actually why he doesn't like change. He says because we're on top, and so we don't want anything to change.
He's very conservative, but unlike many very conservative people, he is very intellectually honest about his reasons for being conservative.
He says,
is that he has the power and he doesn't want that to change.
Yeah, he's his chief motivation here is to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, maintain the status quo because he is the king in the status quo.
He's worried that he might get rearranged to live in the tree or something.
Yeah, or the Eiffel Tower. Why does the land of make-believe have an Eiffel Tower?
Why does
the Eiffel Tower?
Why does Las Vegas, Nevada have an Eiffel Tower?
I mean, that makes more sense to me than the land. It's such a specific detail.
Well, they needed somewhere for the French person to live.
That's true. Well, we haven't met the French person yet.
Yeah, right.
I'm not positive the French person has been introduced yet.
In any case, Lady Aberlin arrives, and
King Friday's left at this point, so Edgar is forced to handle the guard detail
interrogation
alone.
Yes.
So he asks her for her name, rank, and serial number.
But she doesn't have a serial number, so she just makes one up.
They just make one up. It's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is her
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yes. Yeah. Yes, and actually before King Friday leaves, he specifically, because Edgar asks, what if your immediate family shows up? Should I ask them for their name, rank, and serial number? And King Friday says yes, because they might be a changer in disguise. And at some point, I began to wonder, maybe this is a valid concern. We don't know the full extent of Lady Elaine Fairchild's magical powers.
I was thinking that
maybe she can take the form of
a human. I mean, you'd think she would do that more often because of the opposable thumbs and what have you.
Yes. Well, and there's also the fact, which is not mentioned, that Lady Elaine Fairchild is also King Friday's immediate family.
Yeah, that's true.
Is he his sister?
Well, he might marry into it. I'm not sure.
Right.
As we discussed last week, I believe that the prince's aunt is Lady Elaine Fairchild, which means that she is either King Friday's sister or sister-in-law.
Yeah, that's that track. Well, and I think she's named after Fred Rogers' real-life adopted sister. So that's, I mean, there's something to unpack there at some point, but we'll maybe wait until we meet Lady Elaine Fairchild. And again, I can't wait.
I know, we still don't meet her in this episode.
Still don't meet her in this episode.
They're just
she is
holding that carrot in front of
us. She remains on the lam. I'm not convinced she's not just in the museum go-round and nobody's bothered to check.
I mean, who can get inside
or able to check what's up with the museum go-round? So yeah, Lady Aberlin finally gets in to see her uncle, her great-uncle, King Friday. Mm-hmm. Edgar's sad. Nobody's happy about the situation, except for King Friday. And then we jump over to Henrietta Pussycat and X the Owl, who are similarly distressed about the way things have gone.
In this scene, we have
the greatest line of all time.
What's the greatest line of all time?
The greatest okay, so Henrietta Pussycat is very concerned about the way things are going. She's scared about the increased hostilities. And X the Owl, by way of reassuring her, says, and I wrote this down in quotes, there's nothing to be frightened about until somebody starts shooting.
Oh, X
the Owl, you do have a way with words.
I'm sure that living right next to X the Owl is not good for...
it's not good for, no.
Henrietta Pussycat's anxieties.
Her nervous disposition.
Yeah, they're discussing war and shooting here.
Yeah. A lot of that going on. What? Was there a war going on in 60... something? Was this in the news? That
do you remember anything else of relevance that happened with X and Henrietta?
I mean, not really. They just sort of talked for a while about things, should we be worried and all that stuff. And X the Owl says that if things get bad or Henrietta gets scared, she can take shelter in X the Owl's roots.
So presumably he has tree. Like a...
Yeah, I guess he just has run of that whole Tree's Hollow, which seems bad for a tree.
And then the next scene...
we get an interior.
We see the inside of King Friday's throne room, and Lady Aberlin is there.
Sort of fiddling with his cape.
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah. In a very... I mean, it's got to be weird to have a puppet for an uncle.
Yeah, and King Friday is worried that she might be trying to change his cape.
That's true, because he does not like change. Fundamentally, what he is running here is an anti-revolutionary campaign of suppression.
Yes, he's worried that Lady Aberlin, his own great-grandniece, might be a changer.
Yeah. At one point, she jokes about blowing down the castle, and King Friday...
Huffing and puffing and blowing it down.
In his fit of paranoia, assumes that, it is in fact... the big bad wolf has disguised himself as his own grandniece.
The big bad wolf is among the ranks.
Dissuades his worries
of Lady Elaine Fairchild.
Lady Elaine Fairchild's revolutionary force of changers.
I feel like you could, from this episode, you could just go straight into a movie.
Oh yeah, no, this is great, and I'm 100% on Lady Elaine Fairchild's side, especially with the current political climate.
I mean, we don't really know what Lady Elaine Fairchild wants to do yet.
I mean, she's in favor of change. I feel like Lady Elaine Fairchild is basically an anarchist.
Right. I'm just saying that you shouldn't just vote for someone wanting change unless you know what the change is.
Smash the state. This is a monarchy we're living under. Lady Elaine Fairchild's going to start building the guillotine go-round. And then Lady Elaine Fairchild sings a song.
No, Lady Aberlin.
Lady Aberlin sings a song, but not before King Friday vets it.
In the keywords that I was writing down as I was watching this episode, I wrote down border guard, status quo, censorship. This was the censorship, was when he wanted to read the song.
He looks at this and specifically says no words of change.
Yeah, there's no words basically meant to change. Yeah.
You can sing this song.
He talks about starting a draft, and he later drafts.
Yeah, he does in fact draft his own niece. Into the army.
Because someone else who he had drafted had dodged the draft.
Yeah. And I'm curious if that is going to be a thing that comes back where we find out who he recruited, or if it was just like, this costume doesn't fit, so we have to explain why this is kind of a weird fit for this uniform. It seems unnecessary, but who knows?
So yeah, Lady Aberlin sings a song about afternoon, a completely innocuous song about afternoon.
A completely innocuous and completely irrelevant, much to King Friday's chagrin.
Yeah, although later Mr. Rogers says that this was how Lady Aberlin was trying to combat the political tension, was by singing a song about the afternoon, and I wasn't exactly sure what
this was like her Edelweiss.
Yeah. As she starts sneaking puppets out the back.
She's just swinging a sweet song about pre-war patriotism. Mm-hmm. But King Friday's not that, he's glad that there's no words have changed. It's not a song of sedition or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But also he's a little annoyed that it was completely irrelevant and a waste of time. She also, as she's finishing the song, rips up the piece of paper that the song was written on into little pieces and throws it into the air, which is whimsical.
Was there anything else that happened in the land of make-believe, or should we I think
that's about it. She puts on the uniform, and then her and King Friday do some precision drilling. And that basically takes us out of the land of make-believe.
Yeah, so we better get out of here while the borders are still open.
Yeah, we better get out of here. Our visas aren't good for long, and we're foreign nationals.
Yeah, we gotta get back to our own neighborhood. Okay.
Oh, look, we're here.
Oh, here we are. Stop. Great. Let's
Mr. Rogers' house.
Get off before it does another lap.
Yeah.
So,
back in Mr. Rogers' house. Not a ton goes on in Mr. Rogers' house this episode.
He does get a newspaper, though.
He gets a newspaper. So, speedy delivery. Mr. McFeely shows up. Mm-hmm. Now, I have something... This is maybe controversial. You can decide if we want to pursue this or if you want to edit this out of the podcast. I have a note written down here. Is Mr. McFeely a junkie?
You mean, is he doing speed?
I mean, yeah. He's on some kind of upper, because he's very twitchy. He's very frantic. He does not stop moving. He's unsettling to watch.
Yeah, it's I want to see the episode, and I don't know if we'll hit it in this podcast series. I want to see the episode where because at some point he definitely tones himself down.
He definitely mellows out at some point.
Maybe
I don't know.
Mr. Rogers confronts him.
Yeah, they have an intervention. Mr. McFeely, you need to get clean and calm down.
Anyways, Mr. McFeely, presumably for matters of speed, approaches from Mr. Rogers' back door.
Yeah.
Gives him a copy of the newspaper.
Gives him a copy of the neighborhood news. But what is the headline story on today's edition of the neighborhood news?
The front page is a giant picture, a photograph.
A photograph, yes, that's
of
true.
King Friday the 13th. Talking about how he is
King
trying
Friday establishes border guard, I think.
Yes, and he's establishing a war on change.
This is no small skirmish now in the land of make-believe. It's made front page news in the neighborhood news.
Right, although most of the people in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood travel to and from.
I mean, that's true. There's certainly a connection.
Like, if you want to shop for one thing, you go to the land of make-believe.
Although I don't know that there's any implication that what happens in the land of make-believe will have knock-on effects in the neighborhood. Except for people traveling there. Like, for example, if worse were to come to worse and atomic war broke out in the land of make-believe, I think the neighborhood would be fine. They just wouldn't be able to visit the land of make-believe because it would be
you think?
A charred wasteland. I think so, yeah. Yeah, I feel like in my experience, when things have happened on a larger scale, it's never dribbled out of the neighborhood of make-believe.
Andrew, I just remembered something.
Uh-oh.
I forgot to feed the fish.
Oh, no.
So I'm just going to go do that. If you just want to hold down the podcast for a second.
I mean, this is, I'm sorry about this.
I know I can edit this out.
Okay,
like, you just
good.
Need to,
I didn't think there even were fish yet. All right. So it's just me holding down the fort here in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. So the thing about...
What's going on here?
Hello?
Who's this tall fellow?
I'm Andrew. I'm doing a podcast here with my brother Steven. He just went out to...
I would like to hear your name, rank, and serial number.
My name is Andrew, the plant. My rank, I guess, is co-podcaster.
And serial number?
4.
4, yes, I see. Well, as you are no doubt aware, I am the great King Friday.
Yeah, I pieced that together, so good work there.
Yes, you might not have noticed because my crown is hidden under a helmet.
Yeah, you've got 13 stars up there, I see. King Friday.
Yes. I just come to inform you that we're doing an air raid drill tonight, and
okay,
you need to make sure to have your lights off.
Okay, I didn't think that was going to affect us all the way out here.
But don't change the light bulb.
Okay, well, no, I think all the light bulbs are good here, King Friday.
Because I do not like change.
No, we've established that.
Oh, you have?
Well, I mean, you've made your principles on change very well known. You've established a border guard. It's all over the news.
Yeah, they're fake news, you mean?
Is that... Well, so you haven't established a border guard? This is a scoop if it's true.
No, I mean we have. I don't think that was an actual picture of me on the front of the news.
No, you just don't trust the mainstream media in general.
My robe was much nicer when the photographer was there, but the picture that they used must have been altered in some way.
Right. Now what do you say to allegations that you fired Edgar as your chief border guard after you discovered that he was investigating you?
No, I don't believe that I fired him.
All right, well, that was topical when we recorded this. We'll see what the world's like in a couple weeks.
Yes, what's up?
Not much. My brother was just feeding the fish.
Oh, the fish, was he? Are these new fish?
Well, I didn't even know we had fish, so I suppose they might be new, but it could just be that I'm just not very attentive to fish.
Sounds like a change to me.
Well, maybe you should look in on that.
I'd best be going.
All right.
Don't change anything.
You have a good day.
Okay.
Lady Elaine Fairchild would have won.
What?
Nothing.
Oh, okay, I'm back.
Hey, King Friday was just here.
What?
Yeah, King Friday was just here. There's an air raid tonight.
From the show?
Yeah, from the show, King Friday.
Okay.
He walked. It was real weird. I've never seen him below the waist before. He's got weird legs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird. Like, does it... Shoes? Or...
Like, it's hard to describe. They're just weird.
Okay.
Like, you look at them and you think, those are some weird legs.
Can you draw me a picture?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll draw you a picture right here.
Oh, that is weird.
Yeah, right? Weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where were we?
Where, Will? You were feeding the... yeah, so Mr. McFeely came and went and was twitchy as ever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a newspaper. This, I mean, more than people coming and going from the land of make-believe, the fact that the neighborhood news is covering the land of make-believe suggests to me that, no, this is a real place with real substance.
Well, I mean, you can send a photographer there. Like, you can't deny the existence of this world now.
Yeah, no, it's real.
We have pictures.
Yeah. And sure enough, Mr. McFeely was there just a bit ago. He was, I guess his route covers the neighborhood and the land of make-believe, because he ran into Lady Elaine Fairchild while he was over there and brought back Mr. Rogers' burlap sack, which I'm sure he was relieved
it seems like one of the other is going to annex soon, right?
I mean, yeah, I don't know what they're... I think it's probably like I imagine King Friday early on, when he was establishing his kingdom, probably tried to make a play for the neighborhood, but like couldn't pull it off, and at some point the borders were just drawn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I assume the neighborhood's in America, so if King Friday makes a move on the neighborhood, he's effectively declaring war on the United States, and you don't want to go up against that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's probably happy to keep his dominion within the imaginary realm.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I mean, he can barely handle Lady Elaine Fairchild.
Right.
I mean, I'm not sure even the museum go-round falls entirely under his dominion.
Yeah, what's he going to do about potholes?
Exactly. He doesn't have any experience with infrastructure. There's no roads.
I mean, there's a trolley.
There's a trolley, but that trolley's not looking great. All he's got is a cement floor that's got some cobblestones painted on it.
Anyways, back in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
Back in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
He sings what I would call a barely remembered rendition of What a Wonderful World.
Is that what that was? He talks about it like it's like, oh, maybe you sing this song. And then he sings it, and I'm like, no, I don't. I've never heard the song before in my life, Mr. Rogers.
Let me try to give a quick rendition of how the song goes. It goes, trees, 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 trees. And then there's like one verse, and then it goes back to that. Trees, 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 trees,
and many trees.
So there's that.
So
do you think we've about covered this episode?
I think we've about covered it. Mr. McFeely, yeah, he comes back. He brings back the
cape.
The cape
from Lady Aberlin.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know that Mr. Rogers needed a burlap sack that bad. Kind of seems like
I was wondering if that might have been like a secret message, like Lady Aberlin's don't come to Land of Make Believe, it's not safe, but she couldn't write that because of the censorship.
Right, but again, surely she of all people realizes that Mr. Rogers is privy to everything that goes on in the Land of Make Believe. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that about does it for this episode. So thanks for listening. Next week we'll be doing episode 3.
Yep. The continuing saga of the great neighborhood of make-believe.
The Great War on Changers.
Yeah.
Our theme song was provided by Dan Brisbane, so you can check out more of his stuff at rawar.bandcamp.com.
How do you spell that, Stephen?
It's RAWR, and then you go back the way you came. It's RAWRWAR.bandcamp.com.
I see. It's also Raw R War.
Raw R War on Change.
It depends. Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, we'll be back when the week is new, and we'll have more ideas for you. Andrew, I know you'll have things you'll want to talk about.
Oh boy, will I.
All right, I will too.
So let's make the most of this beautiful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you please? Won't you please? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Won't you please? Please, won't you be my podcast?
Meow, frightened, meow, frightened, meow.
There's nothing to be frightened about until somebody starts shooting, Henrietta.
Meow, meow, start shooting, meow.